Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to the iRacing Israel League. We are here at the Autodromo International di Monza. What a track it is. I am Tom Dillon. Alongside me for this broadcast this evening is Ron Warnes. We aren't running the first chicane here at Monza, and that is going to deliver what is practically an oval. Ron.
Oh yeah, it's going to be very Americanized style of racing. I think we've seen a lot of it throughout the season, but I think at this track, more than any other track that we've seen so far this season, the slipstream is going to play a massive effect, because you can just see on the track map that you have on screen now, that massive, pretty much entirely flat run from exiting Parabolica going into the second chicane on the Grand Prix track, which for this circuit is only the first chicane. It's going to be really important that those drivers have a great run coming out of Parabolica and are stuck in that slipstream to try and get a move done on their competitors.
And, well, we can join the circuit. We're having a look at draw last at the moment. In the drivers' qualifying session, lone qualifying session, just the 2 laps to get it right over the course of about 10 minutes or so. There's 5 minutes to go in the session, if I've got that correct. Well, we're can join. Oh, there you go. 3 minutes left in the session, and we can see the leaderboard at the moment. It is the Toyotas who have the better pace so far. It's just slightly interesting because Marek was second overall in the practice session. That was in an MX5. So certainly in qualifying, the Toyotas finding a little bit more pace than they had before. This is Reem Gross on what should be his final qualifying lap of the evening. We'll see what he can do when he comes up to the line. 0.6 of a second to the good at the moment is the number 44, and we'll see if he can improve at all here as he crosses the line. It looks like he can't, so as he pulls off to a stop, it's a 2:03.2 that is his fastest lap time of the day. Lerman goes second with a 0.5 of a second down on, and Levy here heads up to Ascari. Throw the car in, try and pursue pole position, but that looks like a very, very nervous Toyota.
Yeah, I think his car is, it's really hard for these cars because obviously just the massive way that these Toyotas are. I mean, I think they probably weigh bit north of about 3,000 pounds, so chucking them through that chicane, which is difficult for a Formula 1 car. You can imagine how these drivers are struggling to try and put this car around the track and manage the curbs and just try and get every single tenth that they can out of these Toyotas and even the Mazdas to some extent. So we'll have to see. This is definitely going to be a balancing act that a lot of these drivers are going to have to play tonight.
Levy crosses the line. Won't jump up at all, actually. I can say won't jump up a great deal. Won't jump up at all. We now look at Mark Zubrev. His attempt at that MX5 pole position, currently held by Marek. It's a 2:04.3 to beat. He's got 15 seconds before the session time expires. iRacing will give him a little bit of leeway after that to actually get the lap time completed. And at the moment, he's looking pretty strong. He's off the racing line, and in fact, he's not looking very strong at all because he's going to stop the car, and that will be that. Alan Day won't be able to complete his lap, so that's a shock. Alan Day, Ron, down in 8th position. We'll get your results to you shortly. And here we go. Reem Gross is on pole position. Daniel Lerman alongside him on row 1. There's Josie Kabay and Arnon Lurvy, row 2. Row 3 is your MX5 pole sitter of Yovan Marek and Amir Meshulam, with Gilad Heshika and Arthur Elbert, row 4. Then it's draw last and Mark Zubrev, 9th and 10th.
And then looking through the rest of the field, you have Aviv Cohen in 11th. You have Tal Stern, one of the last Toyotas, in 12th position. Then you have Alan Day, who did not set time in practice and was looking very good on the one qualifying lap that he had, his second qualifying lap, I should say. But unfortunately for him, he did not have enough time to complete that, so he ends up in the 13th position for the start of this race. And we have Alfred Mazuz in 14th. We have Asaf Yaron in 15th, Ben Yosef in 16th, Aiden Schur in 17th, and then Yarmakov in P18, the last of the starters, at a nearly over 6 seconds off of the pole. So I gotta imagine he had some kind of error on that lap that cost him dearly, because that was a very slow time from him.
Well, we're just waiting for a Porsche safety car to get us underway. You can see this up into the run under the bridge through Ascari, and we are indeed underway. So we'll get half of a formation lap in as they head through what is well, actually turn 6 on this track. It's obviously not running that turn 1 layouts, and that's going to be interesting. I haven't seen here before. For those who don't know, only ever ran actually in tests is this no chicane layout. I know Audi did some LMP1 running. There's some fantastic footage we were watching in the green room of it just before this this broadcast. So only in iRacing and Gran Turismo, for that matter, is this sort of layout raced on. And I think it's going to make a very interesting turn 1, which now becomes the Curva Grande. In the first braking zone, very far around the track, is the Variante della Regia.
I can imagine these drivers are going to have a very interesting run from when the green flag comes out going into that first heavy braking zone. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of field shuffling, and I gotta imagine the front row they're gonna be sitting ducks because of how strong the slipstream has been in these cars all throughout this year. And at a track like this, where the slipstream is going to be very important from pretty much from the race start all the way up until about 25 minutes in, when we're about to see the checkered flag, I gotta imagine those front row starters are gonna be sitting ducks here.
Well, here we go then. Early starts for our pole sitter, Reem Gross, who is going to get the jump as they go down into turn 1. However, a few kilometres before we get to the first braking zone on this track, which allows Daniel Lerman to come alongside around the outside. It will be 2-lane racing as they go up through the very, very long flat-out section of this track. And, well, it's going to be Reem Gross who gets behind Daniel Lerman. We're not going to brake for that chicane down into turn 1. Instead, we go straight forward and through the Curva Grande. The first time the drivers have to turn the steering wheel on this track, so it's going to be Gross who is on the inside line. Lerman holds the lead of the race. Just sat in behind is Gabay and Levy on row 2. We'll see what they can do on the brakes. It's a heavy braking zone. It's 3 wide in the background. As is that Levy trying to find his way through. It's Meshulam who goes up into 3rd position. What a move from him off the start, but it's not quite a fantastic move for the back because we've got cars off, and I can't quite see who's gone round on, and Levy is one of them. Tal Stern, I think, as well involved in that incident, and well, it's such a disaster.
Congratulations there to Michelin. That was a fantastic move there when they went into the first braking zone, but commiserations go out to Stern and Levy. That's a very tough start for them. Levy now about 21 seconds back, so in this 20-minute heat race where you definitely do have a lot of time to gain positions and get back in the fight, but with the way this series is, with how competitive it is, I'm sure the damage he picked up in that incident is probably going to be lights out for Levy, so he's probably going to be stuck towards the back, but hopefully things can go well for the rest of this race and we won't have too many incidents. Or as I say that, there's Drew Last there having an incident going through. Ascari manages to rejoin without incident, but you can see the front of that Mazda was shoot up like a beaver there, so tough break for some of these drivers. Quite a few incidents throughout this race. I was expecting a bit of chaos, and we've already gone it, and we haven't even completed the first lap.
Well, Alan Day has got his work cut out to get through the MX5 field. That's a little bit awkward for him. Forced out onto the AstroTurf on driver's left, but then took him behind Mark Zubarev, who's in the MX5, the number 30 car just ahead of him. Will Day get through? That Toyota packs a little bit more punch than the MX5, particularly through the corners, so should be somewhat of a regulation pass for him when he's able to pull alongside Alan Day. He'll be followed through. In fact, he won't be, because Aviv Cohen wants to go out to that outside line. So Day is on the inside as they go through the Curva Grande. Once again, second time on the race. Marek has got past Shika as well for the lead of the race as Alan Day slides his way through, just carries a bit more speed through the Curva Grande. And it sounds very silly, but I think that is just about where the difference between the Toyotas and the Mazdas is. Marek is trying to hold the lead. Hashika will go back down the inside as they go down into the turn 2 and 3 chicane. And, well, oh dear, there's a car off on the right-hand side. That's Michelin. So we have had no change for the lead, at least in that braking zone, as Marek holds onto it. But Samir Michelin, of course, getting it all wrong, down into 7th position in class.
All right, we're going to get a replay here to see what happened to Levy. I think he may have made contact with Zubarev because I saw some damage on the front end of his car, and that's exactly what happened there. There's contact there between the leader currently in the MX-5s and Levy, who had a pretty decent start, was still running in the top 5 overall and was involved in that fantastic 3-wide pass that Michelin pulled off there on lap 1. But unfortunately for him, just a small little bit of contact there cost both of those drivers dearly. I'm sure Marek is going to feel the pain of having that aerodynamic damage. We might get a better view of it. You can see it a little bit in the background there on the left front. You can see a bit of the hood's bent a little bit. The bumper's definitely bent in a bit. So I'm sure at a track like this where aerodynamics are definitely very key, that small little bit of damage he has on the front of that Mazda MX-5 Cup car is going to cost him dearly as this race develops.
Day is trying to find his way through some more of our MX-5 runners, as you see Lerman and Gross battling for the lead of the race. And, well, we've got a little bit of a while before we see who's going to get the better of this. Gross is just sitting there behind 700th of a second off of the lead, right on the bumper of the number 32 car as they go over what is, yeah, a little bit of bump drafting. What we see normally an escape road there down at turn 1 is Lerman able to get to the outside. There's a little bit of the grass action for Daniel Lerman. So we'll see if Gross can go to the inside line this time, carry a little bit more speed into the braking zone. Does he go for the dive? It looks like he hasn't. And it looks like Daniel Lerman has held on to the lead of the race for the time being. I wonder how much of this is a little bit of gamesmanship from those guys wanting to make sure that they're in the right position. Oh, the position they want to be as the race leader goes round. It's a Shika. And he's just lit up the rears. Hopefully everyone gets through okay. It's a very, very closely run affair. But eventually, rejoining the race is Gilad Hashika, gifts Marek the lead of the race. We look at Asav Yaron through the Lesbos, having a battle with a couple more of his MX-5's compatriots. But for the race leader, that is a disastrous moment.
And that was just total heartbreak there from Hashika. You know, he had just taken the lead in the MX-5 category. Speaking of which, I believe we might have had change for the lead there. I believe Gross grabs the lead here in the Toyotas. But getting back to the Mazda fight there, Hashika had just gotten the lead from Marek as they went to the first chicane there, and then immediately spun on exit. So I'm sure he's got to be kicking himself after a mistake like that.
Reem Gross will go to the inside line. He went quite into Parabolica, actually. You don't want to compromise your run, given how long that run down into the first braking zone is here. It is by far the largest on, I think, iRacing as a whole, actually. Never mind just this particular track, or this particular calendar, I should say. We'll see if Lerman can get his own back then and get himself back into the lead of the race. Cohen has got past Ben Joseph. That's for the podium in the MX5s. And, well, Daniel Lerman has got a fantastic run here, but doesn't really want to commit too early. Zubrev gets past Marek in the MX5s as well. That's for the lead of the race, but we're staying with our Toyotas because these two, not too long now, but we find out if Daniel Lerman is able to find a move on the brakes. This time Gross is a little bit more tidy through there than, well, Lerman was on the previous lap. Is there a chance for a move down the inside for Daniel Lerman? And, well, the answer is no. Perhaps again, this is all, yeah, he went very wide there, didn't he? As this is the battle for the lead. We see Marek down the inside in the 30. I apologise, we see Marek down the inside of the 25. Now looks for the switchback in the 25 as they go down into the first Lesmos corner. Might make it 3 wide here, but Cohen in the background. Marek to the inside line, and Yovel Marek is going to find himself in the lead of the MX5 classification. Contacts in the background as well. 34 is tagging Mark Zubrev slightly, but it is a change for the lead as we have 13 minutes of racing still left to play.
Yeah, I think as I mentioned earlier, the point of Marek possibly feeling the pain from getting that front end damage very early on in this race when he spun Levy around on lap 1. I think Marek is definitely going to feel the pain, as I believe he has lost the lead again to Zubrev, as Zubrev has taken the lead again in the MX5 category. But I think Marek is going to definitely feel the struggle throughout this race. He's going to have to manage that car in a straight line. He's going to have to give it everything he possibly can from the first heavy braking zone going into the, I believe that's a La Rogia chicane, first heavy braking zone on this track, all the way up until Parabolica, where it looks like he's going to try and retake the lead here on Zubrev with a move down the inside going into the Parabolica, and it looks like it's going to stick, and now it looks like Cohen is going to try and get through Zubrev here. So Marek is trying to be very aggressive through the tight, twisty section of this track, because he knows as soon as he gets to this flat-out section here, throughout most of it, he is like a sitting duck. He can just see Zubrev getting in the slipstream there and pulling out before they even reach the start-finish straight. They're going 3 wide here. This is some fantastic stuff at the lead of the MX5 pack.
And, well, we have to take stock of where everyone is. Marek's on the inside line. On the inside, in the middle, sorry. On the inside line is Cohen, and then on the outside line is Mark Zubrev. It's going to be Marek, who's in third, though, as they run down through Curva Grande. Trying to hold it around that outside line is Mark Zubrev to try and get the lead of the race back. I wonder if the 25 is going to try and follow Cohen through here, back into second. But let's wait and see, because on the brakes, late is Mark Zubrev. Late enough to get clear as they go down into what would normally be the second chicane here at Monza. Obviously here is the first braking zone of the circuit. However, Zubrev is not quite done yet, because Cohen goes back up his inside and in the Lesmo. A little bit more speed on the outside line, able to carry it through, and that allows Mark Zubrev to go clear to the lead of the race. Cohen holds off a challenge from Marek on the brakes as well, as we see Asaf Yaron maybe going down the inside. Window wipers ablaze. Not really sure why. It seems like a very timid evening over there in Monza. But anyway, had the window wipers going for a moment.
I think that was a very interesting aerodynamic strategy there from Yaron, trying every trick in the book to try and get past Mizzou's for the 5th place position in the MX5 battle. The MX5s have always been definitely the star of the show. I mean, we've had some fantastic racing up and down the field. I've kind of been this dead horse throughout most of the year, but regardless of whether these drivers are battling for the last podium position, when they're battling for the class win, the overall win, or whether they're battling just for like 16th place, these drivers are always going to give it everything. They're going to try and give 110%, and they put on some fantastic racing. That's always been fantastic to see, and we're seeing some interclass battling here, which has always been a nice feature of the Israel League so far this season with the Toyotas and the MX5s. We always get to see some interclass mingling, and we're seeing some interclass mingling here with Albert, the 5th place runner of the Toyotas, and then Mizzou's and Ben Yosef here. They might be going 3 wide going into turn 1, so this will be very interesting stuff. You know, I don't think we'll see too many cars trying to go 2 wide or even 3 wide. I think we'll see a lot of drivers try and go single file as they go through the first corner, just because at a track like this and at a section like this, where you want to try and be as close as you can to the inside line. You'd think that these drivers would try and be single file, but they are not. They're going 3 wide, and now the 2 drivers behind them, I believe that's not Michelin, that's Yaron there, catching up. Oh, there's contact there.
Well,
there was a Toyota going off there.
Side, I think.
I believe that was Michelin. Yeah, that was Michelin there that got involved in that battle. Those two, the Toyota there of Michelin and the MX5, caught up to this battle very quick as they went 3 wide. It was like they're dragging a parachute. Oh, there's contact there. There's Marek having a big slide there as he entered the Lesmo turn, but he manages to hold on to it, but loses quite a lot of time. Oh, there's cars going off all over the place.
Interesting turn of events, side by side for the MX5 lead, by the way. And Zubrev and Cohen, and I think Cohen is going to try and make that move, and does up a spot. We're looking at Tal Stern. He's running 6th in class at the moment. So I just want to give a shout out to Alon Day. Not really normal that we don't speak about him in these races, but he's managed to recover himself all the way up into 3rd position. So even though his gap to our race leaders is pretty large, he is still on a fantastic run and get himself up into the podium. Mazouz has gone round, I believe, over Mazouz crashing and going into the pits. Yossi Gabe has also crashed, I believe. It says it on my little event monitor. Anyway, went off track slightly. And in fact, there is confirmation of that fact, because Yossi Gabe is looking reasonably slow indeed, just getting himself back up to speed. So I would imagine that actually Yossi Gabe went off the track, then came back on with no real problem. Here's what happened. He was trying to attack Alon Day. And given the fact that Alon Day is nowhere to be seen, I think there might be contact here. As Yossi Gabe goes through, oh, there's no contact at all. He just loses it through the corner, only off track for a fraction of a second. But getting that car back going again. And that battle pretty much over. Zubrev and Cohen side by side for the lead of the MX5 race. It's Zubrev back down the inside. And he's going to get himself back up into the lead at this stage. We'll see what Cohen could do as he comes back at him, perhaps under the brakes into the chicane. He's definitely going to try it as down the inside goes Cohen to find his way back into the lead at this stage, but Zubrev not holding off. Eventually, it is Cohen who goes all the way around the outside, and Mark Zubrev loses out on that spot. As Alon Day actually went off track a couple of times, though, I see as well on the event screen. I don't think he's lost too much time, but it's at least something to keep an eye on. As, well, those MX5 cars, I think, are going to be battling again in literally just a few moments' time, Ron.
I gotta imagine Zubrev with the blink of the other wipers there. That was interesting. I gotta wonder if there's some kind of aerodynamic advantage to wiping using the wiper blades a couple times going through the Lesmo corners, because we've seen that twice already in this race. But still, Zubrev trying to stick with the back of Cohen. Cohen, we saw he was involved in that battle a few laps ago, and he's just continued to be up at the front of the Mazda pack, and he has managed to grab that position from Zubrev, and he's trying to pull away. But I think Zubrev is going to have a great run here coming out of the Ascari chicane. I think he might not be close enough to go for a move going into the Parabolica corner. I don't think going for a move here is the smartest thing, because you just go for a move here, and the driver you just passed is going to get that slipstream coming out of the corner, and they're just going to re-overtake you. So I think I'll pass this off to you, Tom. If you were behind another driver, would you try and go for a move into Parabolica, or would you wait like Zubrev has when trying to battle with Cohen?
I'm going to wait, because I think those cars behind as well are looking very racy and will take any opportunity they can find to get back through. But don't really want to upset yourself as you go through Parabolica. 2 cars at the top of your picture, by the way, are driver's right, all the way off the circuit there for a moment as they were running side by side. We're still focused on the battle for the lead, though, as Cohen's on the inside line. It's Marek, I apologise, Zubrev, who is on the outside. Will try and find his way all the way through, but has to tuck back in behind. Will this give rise to a late dive on the brakes to get back to the lead of the race for Mark Zubrev, who does dive down the inside, but it's better braking performance for Aviv Cohen, and he holds on to the lead in the MX5s.
Having the confidence to go really deep in the brakes has always been very important in this series, as we're seeing some tussling there between the 2 Mazdas there of Yaron and Schur there. Those two had a bit of a shindig there as they went through the first chicane on this version of the circuit at least, but they managed to keep it in a straight line, but they definitely lost some time there and made a bit of contact. I don't think they have too much damage. I can't really see any visible damage, so I think they might be good here, but they're going to continue battling here, going down the back straightaway and trying to go into the Ascari chicane. We'll have to see if Asaf Yaron is going to look for the move. He is indeed trying to look for that move. Fifth place Sure, who now drops down the position. We're seeing some more battling up ahead with Tal Stern battling with Ben Yosef. Those drivers are running 6th for Tal Stern in the Toyotas, and then 4th for Ben Yosef in the MX5s. So we're seeing a lot of interclass battling here. This is awesome. This is a lead pack for the Mazdas. They're going to go 3 wide here. That's going to be a very tight squeeze, nearly 4 wide there. That was some really close stuff there, but now it looks like Zubrev is going to hold on to the lead there as they go into the Parabolica corner, but I think this battle is going to spice up quite a lot before they enter the next braking zone.
I think so indeed, because I think Elbert is going to get himself involved as well in the battling as well, of course, as Marek, who's just behind. But it's Cohen who has a little bit of a lead at the moment, 500th of a second. Down the inside goes Elbert, going to try and make it 3 wide to thread the needle and get through by himself. Does Marek follow him through? He doesn't quite have the speed, but that is that is just how incredible that Toyota can be in a straight line at times. We ride on board with Yovel Marek as he sees Mark Zubrev in the lead of the race, Cohen just behind him. This brings Marek back into the picture on the penultimate lap of the race as down on the brakes has a very late dive from Aviv Cohen, almost collects the Toyota, does collect the Toyota, but more importantly gets the lead of the race. Mark Zubrev back at him though as a poor exit allows Marek and Zubrev to get through. Will Marek get to that outside line to try and challenge for the lead of the race? He will, but it's going to be a little bit in vain as almost spinning is Elbert. This is unbelievable stuff as back down the inside goes Mark Zubrev. He'll try and get himself up a spot overall. In fact, will find himself losing out on the lead of the race by the looks of things. It's 2-lane action as we see Marek get himself to the lead, opportunistic and capitalising on a little bit of contact between Zubrev and Elbert. But not over yet, because here goes Zubrev back down that inside line into Ascari. It's a very, very tricky braking zone and he can't quite find the way through. But these guys, as they head on to what will be the final lap of the race, Ron, absolutely inseparable.
Oh yeah, this pack is absolutely hog wild. These drivers are trying to give it everything, and as the 3 front runners in the Mazdas and Albert in the Toyota were battling, we now see Ben Yosef and Tal Stern. We saw that battle about a lap ago. They've now joined this pack, so oh boy, that was massive dive there from Cohen there. He was nearly, I believe he did actually make contact there with the back bumper there of Marek, so that's going to cost him dearly going down this flat-out stretch to end off the lap and start the next one. So I think that's going to be a tough break there from Cohen. He was very aggressive there, pulled off some very bold moves, certainly that bold move that he had last lap going into the heavy braking zone of turn 2 here, the second chicane on the Grand Prix circuit, the first one here, when he nearly, I believe he did actually make contact with Elbert in the Toyota. That was a dive of a lifetime. It didn't really work out too well for him, but you gotta give him props for at least going for it. That is some absolutely awesome stuff, and we're seeing some more awesome stuff here as Cohen and Zubrev are battling, and now they're battling with Marek as well. I can't even get my words out. This is so tense.
Holding on to the lead is Cohen, or getting back to the lead is Cohen. Marek loses 2 spots down into 3rd. He'll try and get back around Zubrev here on that outside line. The skewed front bumper of that Mazda MX5 from a little bit of damage he sustained earlier on. Cohen, though, has got 9 tenths of a second. It's the most important 9 tenths of a second he might ever get in the iRacing Israel lead, because it's given him the chance to stave off any attacks from these guys behind. We look at a final chance for Daniel Lerman to get himself into the lead of the race in what will be the final lap of the race, the final braking zone of the race, as well as we go up into Parabolica corner for the final time. Lerman can't quite find the move on the brakes, so we'll have to just rely on getting a better exit. Zubrev's back past Marek. We're staying with this battle though, because it is for the lead. It's going to be a drag race as they come to the line for the overall victory. Gross ahead of Lerman, and Gross should stay ahead of Lerman no matter what Lerman can do by 900th of a second. It is going to be Gross who wins this race. Alon Day will come home in 3rd position. We see Aviv Cohen. He's going to take the MX5 checker flag, barring a miracle here. And Marek just about gets past Zubrev on the brakes into Parabolico, waiting to see if they stay side by side as they run up to the line, as Stern is trying to find his way through as well, and does. But Aviv Cohen comes across the line. He's going to win in the MX5. Zubrev's on the outside line, not enough for second ahead of Marek. But Tal Stern also not enough to get ahead of Mark Zubrev. That's a nasty incident at the line, as spinning around is Elbert. But it won't really matter too much. They'd already taken the checkered flag. We're going straight back into more action here in the iRacing Israel League as they reverse the top 8 and get us into race 2. But that was a very spicy race 1, Ron.
Oh yeah, that was action-packed from start to finish. We saw battles all throughout the field, and I think in Heat 1, I'll have to give a shout-out to Alon Day, who started the last of the Toyotas and managed to make it up into 3rd, I believe, by the finish. So that was a very good race from him, although we didn't see too much of him all throughout Heat 1. I think with the way he's been in the iRacing Israel League, usually when he has one bad heat, which you can't really call a 3rd place run a bad heat, but whenever he has one bad heat, he usually finishes the day off with a dominant run in the 2nd heat. So we'll have to see how he does in the Heat 2 tonight.
Heat 1 results then on your screen as Reem Gross wins from Daniel Lerman. Alon Day rounds out the podium. There's then Aviv Cohen, Yuril Murek, and Mark Zubrev, the MX5 podium. You can see the rest of your results on your screen. I'm slightly hesitant to go through them in full because we go straight into the grid for race 2 as they all start to grid up. But any major surprises there, Ron, I think is the key question to ask.
I would say probably my biggest surprise was the gap there. I'm not sure exactly who that was because the graphic disappeared so quickly, but there was one driver, I believe that was Stern, and one of the Mazdas that were like just a couple thousandths of a second between them. That was very close stuff. So very close. It's always great to have some interclass mingling, and at a track like this, even though the Toyotas are really fast in a straight line, the Mazdas are still carrying their weight in the corner, so it's always great to see some interclass mingling, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of that here in Heat 2.
Well, it's Mark Zubrev on pole position. Yovan Marek is just behind him. Then, of course, it's Aviv Cohen, Arthur Elbert, Alon Day, Yossi Gabay, Reem Gross, and Daniel Lerman. Those were the reverses. Everyone else, of course, is in the position they finished in race 1. 20 more minutes ahead of us here from the iRacing Israel League on what's turning into one of my favourite layouts of a racetrack. This has been fantastic so far. We'll wait to see when Mark Zubrev will go here, perhaps reasonably early as others did in the previous race. Let's wait and see. As lights off the Porsche safety car, it will dive into the pits. He'll put the race into control of Mark Zubrev. He isn't going as late as he was before. There goes the safety car, so we're ready to get racing in Monza for the 2nd time. And green, green, green is the call. Zubrev doesn't get the best of starts, and in fact it allows Marek along the outside. It's 3 wide for the Toyota lead, it's 3 wide for the MX5 lead. Is in the background your Toyotas, in the foreground are the Mazdas. Here goes around the outside Marek to the lead of the race by just a slender margin. Alon Day holds the lead, and the Toyotas only slightly as there's almost contact in the background. I can't even see who that is. He squeezed all the way onto the grass. That could end very badly. It did. Oh, it's ended very badly indeed for someone in the background, as that is a very, very nasty accident for one of those cars. Alon Day will try and get the race overall. Here he goes down the inside. What a run for the 3-time Euro NASCAR champion as he gets to the inside line. Zubrev will, oh no, he won't, because
no,
taken and hit off by Cohen.
There's Albert into the wall as well. There's cars going off all over the place. Good lord, that's a lot of cars going off. Alon Day managed to go from, I think that was like 5th at the start, all the way up to 1st in the series of about 20 seconds. In a very chaotic start, Day manages to outweigh all of his competitors. That was an unbelievable run from Day, but a lot of carnage farther behind.
Well, that's very interesting, isn't it? Alon Day, 2 seconds to the lead of the race. I mean, it's regular racing for him. I think regular programming resuming, and he can't complain too much about that. But I think Cohen, who's now out of the race, will probably feel a little bit hard done by in that one. We see Yossi Bay, who was squeezed all the way to the grass at the start of that race. He's managed to get himself up into an not an overall podium, but up into a class podium in the Toyotas. As to the outside line will go Daniel Lerman, who wasn't quite able to win that race one. We'll be looking to do better in this one. Around the outside he goes of Yossi Bay, rare to make a move on the brakes into Parabolica. That's what he's going to try to do. We'll try to hold it all the way around the outside line. Probably not the best advice you can give someone there. There's, of course, it's a very long run, but it seems to have worked for Daniel Lerman. Yossi Bay is looking very, very awkward out of the corner, and that gives Daniel Lerman that third spot.
Oh, we were going to see some bump drafting there. Yossi Gabay this time last lap. I was fully, because I was seeing his car go back and forth between the grass and whoever he was side by side with. I believe that was Stern he was going side by side with. I could be, actually, I believe that was Reem Gross that he was going side by side with when they went 4 wide coming through the start finish straightaway. That was unbelievable from Yossi Gabay there, that he managed to keep that car in a straight line. Although he is losing a few positions here and there, that was an absolutely chaotic start. I gotta give him props for the fact that he managed to keep that car on the road and in a straight line.
My apologies as well to Alon Day. He's a 4-time Euro NASCAR champion, not 3, but there you go. He leads the race regardless. That bit of the sentence was correct. These guys have sort of filtered out now, and it's calmed down for at least the next couple of corners as Yossi Bay looks to now perhaps attack Tal Stern, applying the power out of Lesmo 2, getting up into Ascari already 3 minutes into this race on the second lap of the race. And by my reckoning, it is about a 10-lap race here, isn't it? So not a lot of time to get the job done, all things considered. Here's Yehuda Ben Yosef, and he's looking to get himself up into third. He'll go around the outside of Mazouz in the 4-2-2, but not quite able to find the spot. There's just behind him is Gilad Hashika. Hashika himself not really able to do much ahead of Ben Yosef. Getting himself involved in the background is Mark Zubrev, who caught up in all sorts of drama early into this race. They'll open up 2 lanes onto the grass is the number 4. Won't deter him though, as despite being 3 wide, he might get through under the brakes here. He won't. And in fact, it's Mark Zubrev who helps himself to the spot all the way around the outside, makes contact with the 4 car who's on the inside, but should get that spot. He's got to use the slipstream of the car ahead, or try and thread the needle as he looks for a podium in this one. As what can Zubrev do? He's in 4th already. Will he get that 1 extra to go to 3rd? They're going to go 4 wide as they go down the main straight here at Monza. And I don't know how this one is going to filter out. 4 wide, Rod.
I'll tell you, I think Ben Yosef might have a good shot here. Ooh, that's very close there. That's nearly that's definitely contact there. That's definitely contact. Those 3 cars going spinning there. I think that was just way too bold of those drivers to go 3 wide, especially when they're about 2 or 3 laps into this race. So that was kind of expected. I was going to say, Ben Yosef. Oh, no, we're seeing some more carnage up towards the front of the Toyota field. That's Yossi Gabay and Levy making contact there. So those drivers have an incident going through that chicane, and now we're going to see the second place runner here in the Mazdas there of last there just thread through those 2 Toyotas and manage to grab that position. So that was just absolute carnage all throughout this field, whether it's on lap 1 or whether we're like 3 laps into this race, 5 minutes into this race, 5.5 at this point. It's just been carnage all throughout the start of this race, but certainly this man, Alan Day, managed to grab that lead with a very fantastic start there, and has just really pulled away and has let all the carnage go on behind him.
Yeah, I don't think it could have gone any better for Alan Day. Headlights ablaze as we get to that point in the evening. It's Monza, sun just about behind the tree line. It lines pretty much all of this track. Nice refresher after a few American rounds here in this championship over the last
Oh, well, thank
week.
you.
Hey, well, you don't have trees around your racetracks.
Yeah, well, it's just, we've had too many American tracks. Thank you very little, Tom. I appreciate that.
Well, they've been good, but we have had a lot of American tracks. I don't think you can...
That is fair.
With that one.
Yeah, that is very fair. I mean, throughout this schedule, we've raced at Legacy Phoenix. We raced on the road course, which was a pretty decent race, as we're seeing Gabe pull into the pits with the damage he collected in that incident. Certainly, he's going to be done for this evening. But yeah, we've raced at Legacy Charlotte road course. We've raced at Legacy Phoenix. We've raced on a lot of Rovals, and we also raced at. We're also going to be racing at Road America next race in 2 weeks' time to round off this iRacing Israel League schedule. So I believe we've had about 4 or 5 races in the U.S. this season, which, hey, American representation, I'm not complaining. I'll be a true patriot at heart, but I can definitely agree with you on that. How there's definitely a lot of other tracks I think these cars can race on. We'll have to see what the other people in charge of the iRacing Israel League choose to run next year, but I wouldn't complain one bit if they decide to run these Toyotas and Mazdas again next season, because it's put on some fantastic shows so far this year.
Yes, and I'm not complaining about the amount of American tracks. They have been producing fantastic racing throughout the course of the last couple of months. And yeah, I suppose this track has as well. We did have a camera shot for a moment, I should say, of Gross and Marek. And I wonder how Marek wants to run that, because he's got such a lead to any other Toyotas. Any other Toyotas, or indeed any other MX5s. That he really doesn't need to battle here. So I suspect Marek would just sit in behind. You'd hope he would just sit in behind. We'll wait and see what he chooses to do. Still 12 minutes to go in this race. We have 3 retirements as well at this stage. Scher, Yaron and Michelin. Whether Yaron will... I apologise, I got Yaron and Gabe confused. Gabe's out of the pits. I was going to say whether we see him re-emerge. We're not too sure, but I'm pretty sure those 3 are indeed out of the running. And actually, for the first time all evening long, we've got a relatively subdued racetrack.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of battling going on. Certainly these 2 drivers, Gross and Marek, are very close to each other. You mentioned a very good point. I'm not sure how Marek would want battle here. You can see him bump drafting there, the back of Gross's Toyota there, so it's kind of felt like a violation of natural law seeing those 2 cars mingle in that way. But anyway, I think I do agree with you how Marek really doesn't have a lot to gain here. I mean, sure, I think finishing runner-up would be pretty good achievement considering the man who is leading this race right now, Alan Day, who, as you said before, is a 4-time NASCAR Euro Series champion, certainly a very good racer, so I'm sure Marek would definitely want to get bragging rights to finish second tonight, but right now he's leading the Mazdas really by a country mile. I believe the gap's about 10 seconds between him and the next Mazda, so I gotta imagine, like, at this stage of the race, he should just kind of, I don't know, take a chill pill. I say that. These drivers are always, I mentioned during Heat 1 how a lot of these drivers, regardless of what position they're running in, will always try and give it everything. So I'm sure Marek, me telling him that he should probably take it a little bit easy because he's running in a great position now. He'll probably still want to battle with Gross. We'll just have to wait and see. Ooh, we're seeing some more battling here. This is actually for a really important battle here. This is for the last of the top 5 runners. We have Ben Yosef and Heska here, so we'll have to see how this battle develops. Actually, is that? Yes, that is the other battle there. Sorry about that. I nearly got my cars confused there, but as you mentioned, pretty subdued start. I mean, well, pretty subdued racing at the moment, but at the start it was just absolute carnage all across the field, so it's nice to have a chill pill at this point in the race.
It is, and we're on board with Yehuda Ben Yosef as he looks to attack Ashika, who's just ahead in 4th spot, but not really able to do much at this stage. It's just a little bit too far back, and well, this is a battle then. Daniel Lerman trying to get himself up into what should be 3rd position. Sorry, no, this is Tal Stern trying to get himself up into 3rd position in class. Daniel Lerman is the man that is just ahead of him in these Toyotas. We'll see what they can do as they're bump drafting all the way through Curva Grande. You really want to be getting to the inside line, maybe through Curva Grande, maybe as you go onto the brakes into regular turn 2, or regular turn 3 actually, if I refer to the official F1 track map of this track. On the brakes though, not really able to find a move is Charles Stern.
Yeah, I think this was definitely going to be the battle to watch, because even though we were battling we were following the battle in fourth and fifth between Ben Yosef running in fifth in the Mazdas and Heska currently running in fourth. Ben Yosef, as we saw earlier in this race, got involved in an incident and he has a bit of front end damage. So I can imagine that car. It's like he's dragging a parachute down the straightaway. So I can imagine that battle won't heat up too much. Actually, right as I say that, they swap positions. So you can completely ignore what I'm saying. I have no idea what I'm talking about. But I'm surprised that they are battling, though, I will say, in this tight, twisty section of the track. I'm sure that Ben Yosef definitely does have a bit of a edge there on Hasika, because those drivers are fairly even pace-wise, but still, just the fact that they're still battling, even though Ben Yosef has that front-end damage that he does on that Mazda, he's putting in a very valiant drive to keep up with Hasika and manage to get fourth in the MX5 category.
It's round 2 between Stern and Lerman about to get underway as they go into Parabolica for what should be the 6th time in this race, with having a lap counter right up in front of me. We'll see what Stern can do then as he applies the throttle out of the final corner here, turn 7 on this layout of the circuit, and he is so fast. He's going to go for the pump drafting strategy, as that is a very interesting shot of the workings of that Toyota GR86. It's, well, looking back from Daniel Lerman's camera angle, still focused on Daniel Lerman here as we go through into Grand Prix Turn 1, down that escape road now to the Curva Grande. Is there a better chance here for Tal Stern, who doesn't seem to be carrying the speed as he goes through Curva Grande, and I think that is his undoing here. And that is the reason why he's not able to make a move on this occasion. Arthur Elbert is here, looking to attack, draw last. This is for, well, 2nd position in the MX5s, but obviously Arthur Elbert not in an MX5, so he's just going to get up another spot, and he'll treat that almost as if it's a lapping manoeuvre, albeit a very difficult one. So you see already tyre marks being plunged into that gravel on driver's left. I also saw Daniel Lerman just went off track, so I wonder if that's battle got a little bit more spicy than what we saw when we just switched away to this one.
I think that could be the tire marks that you mentioned coming through the first chicane on this track. Man, well, maybe that was just from the other battling that we saw and the total carnage that we saw in lap 1. We'll get a replay to see what happened here with Lerman and Stern, the other battle for the final podium position here in the MX5. So we'll get to see what happened here. Lerman coming through Lesmo 1 and just, well, went a little bit wide through there. I don't think that cost him dearly, but through Lesmo 2, I think that's a lot of speed carried through there, and nope, he manages to keep it on nicely. So just a couple wide moments there. Certainly, if this was a Formula 1 race, the other stewards would be looking into that, but here on Apex Racing TV and here on the iRacing Israel League, we believe in real racing that isn't interfered by stewards every 10 seconds, so we won't look into that at all, because we just want to see these drivers push these cars to the absolute limit, because that's what racing's all about. We want to see these drivers give everything, give 110% trying to put it out on track, and as you saw there with Lerman, he was definitely doing some very interesting interpretation of track limits there going through the 2 Lesmos.
Yeah, well, Marek is still holding off Daniel Lerman. This time Lerman gets to the inside line and should find his way through. I don't think Jovan Marek is going to be doing too much battling here, as just trying to keep calm and hold on to the lead of that MX5 race. Draw last is so far behind him that he doesn't really need to worry about these Toyotas, to the point that he could probably pull over to the side of the road and let them through here. As Mazuz has made his way up into 3rd position. Teschke on the inside line. Ben Yosef trying to get himself through on the outside line. And I think Ben Yosef might just have that pace as they go through Curva Grande. These guys finally battling. In fact, no. Teschke holds on to 4th and will actually try and get himself back up into 3rd as he goes to the inside, but not quite able to find the braking performance.
Oh, look at Ben Yosef there. He was very close there to the back of Heskia there as they went into that first heavy braking zone there. So I think Ben Yosef is he's very racy at this point in the race, so I'm sure he's going to try and get involved in this battle. We saw him and Heskia were battling quite a few laps ago, but now that Mazuz has gotten involved in this battle, we'll have to see how this develops. So Ben Yosef, I mentioned how the the front end damage was probably going to play an effect into this race, but right now he's still showing a lot of speed. Certainly this man, Alan Day, has been the cream of the crop all throughout this race, had that fantastic start, grabbed the lead going into the first chicane, and then has really held it. Right now he's leading by 3.5 seconds over Reem Cross in second, so still very good drive from him. I'd like to mention, because I don't think we saw it on camera, Lerman has managed to get past Marek, so now Marek has fallen out of the overall podium, but still, he is about 14 seconds ahead of last, the second place runner in the Mazdas. So he's put together a very good race. That's very impressive for Marek, who's been very impressive all night. He was fast in practice. I believe he was second overall in practice, which to do that in an MX5 was fantastic. But right now he finds himself in a bit of a hornet's nest here, involved in that battle with Stern and Lerman. They're now going 3 wide there, coming through turn 1. That's some very hair-raising stuff there. I'm sure Marek is probably a bit scared, I can imagine, so the heart rate on him is probably spiking up a little bit, but they all managed to get through there cleanly, and he's going to get a fantastic view there of this battle between Stern and Lerman.
Well, I know myself, I'm pulling off the throttle there and letting them all through, but obviously Marek is doing a better job than I'd be doing. Gilad Heskip is on the outside line. He'll be overtaken here by Ben Joseph. And Ben Joseph gets himself up into 4th. It's Sofa Mazuz who holds on to 3rd for the time being. But Ben Joseph gets a fantastic run up that inside line. We'll go for a bit of a dive on the penultimate lap of the race and make contact as well. That'll allow Heskip to go through, you'd think, as Ben Joseph has to pull off the racetrack. And, well, it's an accident that we've seen 3 or 4 times this race with all different cars. And it's happened again here towards the end of this race.
You know, okay, here's a quick lesson to anyone watching at home. Swallow before you speak. But getting back to the incident that we just saw there in the MX-5s, Ben Joseph, you saw a little bit of the front. There after that incident. That is a very sad MX-5 Cup car. It looked like the little slot in between the hood and the front bumper was frowning at the camera. So tough break for Ben Joseph, who's put together a very good race despite picking up damage on lap 1, and he's picked up even more damage. So I'm sure that car is going to be very slow in a straight line. But I think he has a pretty big gap to offer Mazuz, so I think he'll be fairly safe in the 4th position as we're nearing the final lap now. So right now, this is the biggest battle on track. This is between Stern, Marek, and Lerman. These drivers have been very close for the past 2 laps, and I think Marek it looked like he was going to peek a nose in there. It still looks like he's going to try and peek a nose there, but he backs out of it and lets these 2 drivers go side by side. He might be thinking at some point, if I let these 2 guys race really hard, these 2 knuckleheads are going to crash into each other. So he's probably just going to sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and right as I say that, the 2 drivers crash into each other. Tal Stern up on his lid. Both of those drivers go through the gravel. Very tough break for them. They were putting together a very good race, but I pretty much called it. I won't call that a commentator's jinx because I wasn't saying it in a very positive light, but right as I mentioned that, yeah, I'm just going to sit back and relax if you're if you're Marek, look what happened.
Well, it's a prophecy that immediately came true as Yehuda Ben Yosef goes down the inside line. He looks for 3rd position in a bit of controversial style considering, well, Ofer Mazuz is off down in 5th position. Ben Yosef gets onto the brakes and will get that ahead of the number 4 car on the final lap of the race, and that should be that spot for him. We'll want to see where Alan Day is, and here he is taking the words out my mouth is producer Lee on the in the virtual production tents or whatever you produce streams in, as Alan Day is making his way down that back straight for the final time. He is going to win in what is pretty exceptional style in this one. Started 13th overall in the first race, got his way up, a little bit of help from the reverse grid, but no one can take away what he did on lap 1 and what he's done since then, as Alan Day is going to win the penultimate race of the season on his way to what should be another championship when the round is over and done. Next time out in Road America, Reem Gross finishes 4.4 seconds down the road in 2nd. We're looking back at Arthur Elbert, who's got past draw last. He'll come home in 4th in class. Heskir and Ben Joseph are still battling, by the way, for 3rd spot. So wondering how that one is going to filter out when they come around that final corner for the final time. And in fact, it's going to be very interesting indeed, because GR86 goes to the outside line, trying to hold off Ben Yosef. Ben Yosef is going to get a good run out to Parabolica. Will it be good enough? It's an early line here at Monza. Shouldn't quite have the speed. He's blocked. And at the line, Hesketh holds on to a podium spot. A little bit controversial. I don't think you're really supposed to be blocking quite that aggressively.
I think there's bigger issues than that, if I'm being honest. Oh boy, both of those drivers wig-wagging there, and there's Ben Yosef spinning. So it's a good thing he did that after the checkered flag and not as he took the white flag. Otherwise, that'd be a disaster for him. But I think there's bigger issues than that, if I'm honest. The front of those two Mazdas both looked very sad. It was kind of funny looking at. It was just seeing those cars bent up is a sign of both of those drivers running a very hard race, and certainly a very challenging race, even though they finished 3rd and 4th in the MX5 category.
And there we go. We'll get your race results for you in a moment as we just wait for everyone to officially cross the line. And there they are. Alon Day wins in fantastic style ahead of Reem Gross. Jovan Marek wins in the MX5. It's a huge win for him, especially considering it comes with an overall podium. Then it's Daniel Lerman and Arthur Elbert, your top 5. Draw last second. That's just how far up Jovan Marek is. I thought Draw last was winning in the MX5. So he finishes second. It's Gilad Heshke who rounds out that top 3. Arnon Levy just in between those two. Then Shehuda Ben Yosef and Ofer Mizzou is the top 10.
Then looking through the rest of the field, you have Yossi Gabay, who was involved in that fantastic 4-wide stuff on lap 1. Unfortunately, he finishes outside the top 10. Then we have Mark Zubarev in 12th. Tal Stern, who we saw involved in that crash towards the end of the race, in 13th. Then we have Yarmakov in 14th, Cohen in 15th, Aiden Shur in 16th, Asaf Yaron in 17th, and Amir Meshalem, who looked like he had a very good race going, had a fantastic Heat 1. Unfortunately for him, he gets caught up in an early crash and ends the race in 18th last.
There we go then. It's not very often that any drivers pop up for interviews here in the iRacing Israel League, but we'll give them the courtesy of waiting a couple of minutes, see if anyone does want to jump up into the box. But one more race to go, as you said earlier in the broadcast. Ron, Road America, don't have the points in front of us, but I do believe that if he hasn't wrapped it up already, then Alon Day is at least on course for another championship, and I think runs like today pretty much show us why.
Yeah, I think Alon Day, this requires a little bit of backstory. So I saw on Twitter earlier this week, or X, whatever you call the website at this point, there was someone talking about Alon Day and his brief career in NASCAR, at least here in the United States. And I mentioned how I've had the grateful opportunity to do these broadcasts here on Apex Racing TV and cover Alon Day and see the racer he is, and he has just always been he's been a textbook racer. He's always been very aggressive, but not to a point where it's like starting to be concerningly aggressive. He's always been a really ruthless racer. He's always been a fantastic racer, and he's always done some fantastic stuff in this series. He's put together great drives, and certainly Heat 2 tonight was a fantastic one. What Alon Day has is X factors that some of these other drivers don't, and we've seen that play out sometimes throughout the season. Certainly in Mid-Ohio, last race of the season, well, before tonight, what we saw him was he was able to hold on to the lead just because he was able to go on the brake so far later than any of his competitors. And just little stuff like that, small little details that can mean quite a lot when you're racing for championships and racing for wins in a series which is as close as this iRacing Israel League is. So Alon Day has always been a really good competitor. I'm sure he has had a couple rough races here and there, but I'm sure he's definitely on track to win another championship this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, it looks like no one's jumping up into the booth, so we'll round out the stream. Thank you very much for watching here from the iRacing Israel League on Apex Racing TV. We appreciate your company over the last hour or so, and we will see you in 2 weeks' time at Road America.
Yeah.